My name is Ruth Knight. I'm on the Organic Council board and also have quite a long history. We shouldn't count those years with this conference. Just for anyone who's new, this conference was started by students looking for alternatives to what they were being taught. And there are quite a few of you in the audience that have made a lot of contributions to that knowledge process and development of this sector. There's also a number of people that we would like to acknowledge that through the years they are no longer with us. And so I'd just like to take a few moments to acknowledge them. And this poem is from Mary Oliver, which I really enjoy. It's called The Summer Day. Who made the world? Who made the swan and the black bear? Who made the grasshopper? This grasshopper, I mean, the one who has flung herself out of the grass, the one who is eating sugar out of my hand, who is moving her jaws back and forth instead of up and down, who is gazing around with her enormous and complicated eyes. Now she lifts her pale forearms and thoroughly washes her face. Now she snaps her wings open and floats away. I don't know exactly what a prayer is. I don't know how to pay attention, how to fall down into the grass, how to kneel down in the grass, how to be idle and blessed, how to stroll through the fields, which is what I have been doing all day. Tell me, what else should I have done? Doesn't everything die at last, and too soon? Tell me, what is your plan to do with your one wild and precious life? So thank you, remembering all those that came before us, acknowledging all of you that have been with us for some time, and all the hope that we carry into the future. So, thank you.
Thank you, Ruth. And thank you, everyone, for being here at the 2024 Guelph Organic Conference. So, this is the second year that the Organic Council of Ontario, the GOC, has run the event. We reanimated after COVID. Can you hear me okay? Yeah. But you can't see me okay. So this is the second year for OCO to run the conference. And, you know, as ever, it's so great to see new and returning faces in the crowd. I am Ben Cullen, if you don't know who I am. I'm the president of the OCO board. And if you don't know who OCO is, we represent over 1,000 members from the full value chain of the organic sector in Ontario. That's farm to fork. We are the voice for organics in Ontario. So we support the sector through advocacy, research, and public engagement, events like this. So when it came up, it seemed a natural fit for us to rise and take on the conference. So credit to staff and committee for making this happen again, but I don't have the thank you speech. I just can't help myself for all the hard work that I've seen, thanks to them. Coming together is important. We work in a business sector that can feel like a nonprofit sector sometimes. And it's important to remember that what we do is worth doing even when it's not always lucrative. For the growers, brands, retailers, I see you when it keeps raining and raining and raining in the harvest season, mold and mud accumulating on the crop. I know about that. To the retailers who are being blamed for the cost of living crisis, and those small brands that are caught in between, I see you too, because there's a mirror over the sink where I brush my teeth in the morning, and I am a small brand caught in between. So we're in this together, and that's really, really important. It's important because it was my second semester in agriculture at college, Ridgetown, if you know it. Don't hold it against me. Winter semester, where I learned the most important thing I learned in agriculture college, and that was how to shoot the shit. We're in peak shooting season right now, January. Perfect time for a conference to get together, share in our learnings and our struggles and our vision for this sector. So thank you for being here for that. It is here where we shape the bricks that we build this sector. So thank you for bringing your passion and your experience so we can keep building this movement. That's all they've given me to say. Last year, you remember, I didn't have notes, so I actually have notes this year. Father of the bride speech, I actually didn't cry. I thought I might cry, but it does time-bound me, and it's my time now to turn it over to our Member of Provincial Parliament, Mike Schreiner, MPP from Guelph, leader of the Greens, to welcome you to the Guelph Organic Conference. Longtime friend of the conference, Mike Schreiner.
Thanks, Ben. Thanks, Ben. Wow, it's so great to see so many old friends and to meet new friends today. And as the MPP for Guelph, I want to welcome you to the great city of Guelph, and I hope you have a fantastic conference and a great half of a weekend. I can't quite get used to it not being on Sunday, and I can't quite get used to it. I keep thinking tonight's Friday night, not Thursday night. My first organic conference was in January of 1994. And it is amazing to see how much the organic sector has grown. Like, it's really tremendous. And I want to say to the OCO team, who I know have been working diligently for many years to be advocates on behalf of the organic sector, but I feel like maybe something moved at Queen's Park this year. I don't want to overpromise and underdeliver, and I don't want to raise up hopes, because I know the sector has been pushing so hard for the organic legislature to finally pass organic standards here in the province. But I can tell you that because of your advocacy, because of the great work you have all done, I've had numerous conversations with the parliamentary assistant for OMAFRA, Trevor Jones, who keeps coming back to me asking about this stat or that stat or this part of the organic sector and how we can improve it, grow it, and have a even bigger contribution to our economy. So I have a twinge of hope that maybe sometime soon we may see some movement in that direction. But I want to say to each and every one of you, take advantage of the opportunity, your time in Guelph today, tomorrow, Saturday, to renew old friendships, to make new friendships. And I hope there's a young entrepreneur in the crowd who, like me in 1994, came to the University of Guelph for this conference, got a spark of an idea, and was crazy enough to start a couple organic food businesses before going into politics. So if you ever need anything, don't hesitate to reach out to my office. And thanks for the great work you're doing to build sustainable agriculture in this province.
We have a lot of speakers among us, I guess, so we're going to try and keep it short and sweet. I'm going to continue, unfortunately not as extravagantly. We have some small door prizes, continue the tradition of giving out door prizes that Tomas started. So I'm going to need 7 volunteers, and if I don't get them, I'm just going to pick them from the crowd. So I'm going to take, Ben Caesar's going to have to come up, because I know he wants to. Mike, you're going to come up. Owen, you're going to come up. I'm going to get a lady here. Come on up. Okay, 7 volunteers are going to choose our tickets. You can line up here. So what we've got on offer, we are very lucky to have New Society publishers here with the Winter Market Gardener and the Market Gardener, and they've offered us some books to give away. We also have amazing hats and t-shirts from Mill Street Organics with a little beer opener. We have from Anahita Boulanger, we have a $100 gift certificate value to Becca Spa. And with each of these prizes, we're also giving away our new Ontario Organic bags and farm gate signage. So have a look at those. Yeah, they're going to be around. Okay, so we're going to do this. Oh, please have a look. You're going to see lots of this in the future. So this is the brand, Ontario Organic. Oops, sorry, I'm not showing it here. There you go. So we're gonna do this rapid fire. You're each gonna get one, and then we're gonna read them out. Okay?
It's hard to get one.
Two, one. We only have 5 people. We need 2 more. Okay, you're next. Okay. No, you just tell me the number. All right. Do you have your numbers ready? Yep. Wait, hold on.
Do you want just like the last 4 digits or the whole thing?
Last 4 digits.
4, 4, 3, 4.
Dang it!
All right, have a pick of your prize.
Just verify these tickets. Oh, that's wrong. 4395.
4395. Woohoo! Here. Verify his ticket.
Oh, I get to verify too. All right. 4432.
4432. Who's got it? Okay, we're gonna. Oh, no. Okay.
Oh, 4381.
Woohoo! We have a winner. Okay. You got it.
Right, that's
4382.
I have to show you.
4389.
Okay, good. You should have it. You're gonna verify. Okay.
4440.
Okay, so here comes the other.
4405.
Yeah, we're gonna read this again.
4440.
Take us here, Katie. Okay.
All right, let's do another one. Okay, we're good. Okay, we're good. All good. Okay, thank you.
We did have one more thing to do.
Leave a mystery bag. Okay. So it's my job to do the thank yous. We're waiting in here, but that's okay. We'll move forward. So where are we? So first, I want to do a quick land acknowledgement. The sacred land on where the Organic Council of Ontario and the GOC resides and operates is situated upon the traditional territories of the Wendat, Haudenosaunee, and Anishinaabe and Mississaugas of the Credit. Please take a moment to think about where your land is situated, and you can take a look at whos.land or nativeland.ca. I want to say thank you to our sponsors. We are so lucky this year to have not one, but 3 platinum sponsors this year. We're very, very happy about that. Fennings, we love you, and we're so happy that you've been the platinum sponsor for forever. So I want to say that first and foremost. But New Society Publishers and EcoCert are also qualifying for our platinum sponsors this year. Thank you so much. And I want to give also a mention to ProCert. ProCert is a gold sponsor as well this year. So this conference would not be possible without the sponsorship. So thank you very much. And then also I want to acknowledge our dinner sponsors. So you can take a look on your table. There's a number of donations that made this reception possible. Can we get a round of applause for the food? How did you find the food tonight? Okay. Yes. I want to say it's not very often that you go to a conference venue where the venue, especially in a university, takes extra pride and makes a real effort to make sure that all of the food is organic and works with our vendors who are sponsoring or donating products. So we're really, really happy. Thank you, University of Guelph. Thank you to Christine, where we are. So Harmony Organic, Fennings Organic, Mapleton's Organic, Nuts for Cheese, Meaty Meats. Yay, thank you. Came in at the very last minute with our pork. Thank you so much. Yorkshire Valley Farms, Gingerbug, Taw's Winery, London Brewing, Southbrook, and Mill Street. So thanks so much for all those donations. I'd like to get this one up if we can. And just take a moment to say, board members of OCO, can you please stand up for a second? Everyone who's on the board and everyone who's on the staff who's here. Take a moment and stand up. Yes, these folks dedicate a lot of hours, a lot of time to help support us, and our staff unfortunately are still working hard, so they're not here to thank, but let's give them a round of applause as well. To Sarah, Courtney, Nova, we have great volunteers this year. Katie Beeler's back, was our volunteer coordinator for many years, and Lily. So, I'm sorry to take up so much of your time, but we just can't go through without saying we have this new Ontario Organic brand we're very excited about, and it's launched. We have a website that's up. It's going to be a consumer-facing campaign. We have 6 videos already from our Ontario Organic producers and companies. We're hoping to show you one today. Thank you. Tech issues. Tomas wouldn't have any tech issues, right? So we have this amazing, we have a website up, we have these farm gate signs that can be both for your farm gate, but they can also be for your retail location or your store gate, if you say store gate, your home as well. These are going to be up in your registration for sale. We're also hoping to give out some as well to certified producers. This is not going to be on any products yet. We still have to figure out how that would actually work, but it's very complicated, as you can imagine. But this is to sort of show your support for Ontario Organic. We have a video, but it's not looking like we can show it at the moment, so I'm going to hold on that. And Nova wrote so many things for me to say here. I'm not going to see them right now. But you should know that a lot of work and effort has gone into this Ontario Organic brand and the website. And we have some founding sponsors on our bags. You can see who they are. Those folks are going to be prominent on the website, and we hope to build that out. So just celebrating local and organic. I'm going to bring up New Society Publishers just to say a quick word, and then Kristen is going to get started with our panel.
Hi there, I'm Rob West, Acquisitions Editor at New Society Publishers. We're a social enterprise based in British Columbia. We're nearing our 50th year of publishing. To me, publishing is a little bit like farming. I do also have a micro farm I run with my wife. We manage another farm. We sow the seeds, I meet an author, think of an idea, spread the seeds, and sometimes a book grows out of that. It's also a lot of work. The returns look a lot like farming returns. So we keep at it because we believe in the publishing, that we're going to change the world. So we're as it were, farming ideas, helping to spread those seeds into the air with the hope that they land on the ground and they sow change in the world. So our publishing is for a world in crisis and for a world of change to build a better future for everyone. Jean Martin, who's here, will be speaking. We started working with him about 2013 and published The Market Gardener in 2014, and has actually been our single best performing book in the past 10 years. And I always tell people that it's the book that launched, 100 or 200,000 small farms around the world. I encounter people all over the world who have read that book, people who pop up in strange places and tell me, oh, I started farming because I came across this book called The Market Gardener. So there's an example of a seed that was sown. Many of you probably have that book. Many of you know Jean Martin and Catherine now with the new Winter Market Gardener book. And And those are the seeds we know you're all sowing out there in the world. And so let's hope that this continues to spiral and compound on itself and that we really change agriculture in the future. So thank you all very much. We'll be selling the books here, and tomorrow and Saturday we'll have a stand in the exhibit hall with 60 or 70 of our 600 titles for sale. So come and say hi. Thank you very much.
It's me, right? Yeah? It's me for the next hour, so just get ready. I'm Kristen. I sit on the OCO board, and when I'm not doing that, I'm with Yorkshire Valley Farms, an organic poultry producer based here in Ontario. Before I invite up our keynote panelists, I want to take a couple of minutes to talk about the Eco Scholar Award. Some of you may be familiar with this. This is an initiative that started out of the Guelph Organic Conference many years ago, and Yorkshire Valley Farms got involved about 3 years ago. It's a program to help provide funding to students who are passionate about organics. We want to help that next generation complete their studies, get out there and create amazing things. So if you know a student who is passionate about organic, regenerative agriculture, who's got an idea that is going to change and help push this community forward, I would encourage you to let them know about it. There's $10,000 in total funding to be awarded across a group of students. In the past, we've given out 4 awards, 6 awards within that pool, so it varies a little bit on applications. They have until February 9th to get their application in, and we ask them to submit a 2-minute video just telling us about what they're working on. And then we'll work with our panel of judges to pick someone's who we think are really working to make a change. So yorkshirevalley.com, you can get more information. But if you know those students, please help us spread the word, because we sort of joke internally like it's kind of the easiest $10,000 we get to give away. And so we just want to make sure people know about it and have a chance. We think there's a lot of great ideas out there, so please pass it on. Now, for the really fun part. So I'd like to invite 3 wonderful individuals up to the stage to join me. If I could have Singh, I'm hoping you're all in the room by now. Okay, perfect, thank you. Jean-Martin and Allison, if you guys could come up and I'll do a quick intro. Rand Goel, who was also supposed to join us tonight, had to send his regrets, so he won't be here this evening. But the 3 of us, or the 4 of us, are looking forward to a pretty interesting discussion. So I've got 3 folks. Some of you may know them, some of you may not. I'll do a quick intro. I'll also give you guys a chance to kind of tell a little bit more about yourselves as we dive into the conversation. I think the title of tonight's panel was Cross-Country Perspectives. And so we want to take a chance to kind of dive in, touch on a few different issues, and kind of hear from everybody's thoughts. We'll have an opportunity for questions at the end. So please, if you don't think, scribble it down on your phone, write it down on a piece of paper, but we will make time to have some discussion at the end so that you guys can also get your questions in with these folks. So I'm going to just do some introductions. Dr. Singh is one of Canada's leading authorities on organic agriculture. Dr. Singh has authored over 200 peer-reviewed papers, chapters, and extension articles, and has been an invited speaker to over 500 workshops, conferences, and symposia, as well as a guest lecturer at over 30 universities in Canada. I'd say that's a good person to give us a cross-country perspective. Emphasizing a union of traditional knowledge with science, Av works with growers to cultivate an appreciation of the plant-soil interrelationships. Let's give a wave. Jean-Martin Fortier is a farmer, author, educator, and advocate for regenerative, human-scale, profitable agriculture. For over 20 years, he and his wife, Maud, have operated Les Jardins de la Greninette. Did I get that right? Yeah? Great, my French goes to grade 6, so I apologize. A successful 2-acre micro-farm. His best-selling book, The Market Gardener, available here, which has sold 250,000 copies in 9 languages, describes the bio-intensive principles used at his micro-farm. In 2015, he established a research farm where he trains apprentices and develops new strategies for market gardening, including year-round production. His methods of production are taught to a worldwide audience through the Market Gardener Masterclass, an online course of the Market Gardener Institute, which is tailored to small-scale food growers. He is the founder of Growers & Co., a tool and apparel company that celebrates sustainable, local, and equitable food products. Jean-Martin lives and farms in Quebec, Canada. Also, do you sleep? How do you do all those things? Oh my gosh. And then last, but certainly not least, we have Allison Squires with us, who is a researcher interested in promoting the organic industry, especially through on-farm research. She and her husband Cody have implemented several on-farm research projects at Upland Organics. She's also the president of the Canadian Organic Growers, or COG, as some of you may know it, and in 2020 was also elected to the International Federation of Organic Agriculture Movements, IFOAM, their North American Board of Directors. So welcome to everyone. As a side note, it's funny when you get a group like this together and you realize how many acronyms we have. We've got a COG, we've got an iPhone, we've got an OCO. I'm sure we'll come up with a few more as we kind of talk through things this evening. So the idea will be that we'll kind of take a few questions, we'll see how the conversation goes, get some thoughts from these guys, and you know, I think it's interesting and it's so nice to have a group of people together live to be able to have a conversation like this, because I often find there's people, you know, you're sitting there and you have these questions and you think you're the only one wondering this thing. But the truth is we're probably all wondering many of the same questions, and there's so much knowledge sharing and ability to help each other. And one of the things I love about the organic community is the collaboration and the sharing. And so I thought we would maybe open, just as we, you know, help the audience get to know you guys a little bit better. I'm going to kind of give you a prompt, and I want you to just kind of finish the sentence with whatever is like the first kind of thing that comes to mind. So I'm going to say, I fell in love with organics because...
That was a good prompt. Yeah, for me, it just made sense.
Okay. Jean-Martin?
Yeah, for me it was about a lifestyle, and it was about an ideal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Allison?
I guess it's because I just wanted to do something worthwhile with my life, and I thought organics was a great fit.
I love it. Okay, we've got a lot of idealists who lead with their heart up here today. And so my next one is, the biggest challenge facing organics today is, and we'll go the opposite way, we'll start with you, Allison.
That's a good question. You didn't mention my bio, I'm actually a farmer. I'm an organic grain farmer in Saskatchewan. So from that perspective, I would say the most pressing issue facing organics right now is the genetic engineering issue.
Okay.
Currently being done.
Okay, Jean-Martin, the most pressing thing facing organics?
I don't know, I would argue that growing without soil and being certified organic is a pretty big trend.
Okay.
Yeah, I think for me it's public trust. That through the corporatization of organics, we're losing some trust in the foundations of what organic is.
Okay, so Carolyn, how long do we have? Because that's three big, today we're going to take on GE, we're going to take on the trust issue, and we're also, but I think these are three great topics, and actually I think we can kind of use those threads. So let's start with what you were bringing up, because I think, you know, there was mention of organic regulations in the province and trying to close the provincial kind of loophole that we have right now around regulation. So maybe can you share a little bit more why you think that trust issue is one of the biggest challenges for organics today?
You know, for me, what I, you know, in talking a lot with other farmers, is that they themselves have lost some trust in the whole organic movement. And so when your foundation farmers are feeling like, you know, they're still certified. You know, many of these farmers continue to certify, yet they don't actually enjoy the process, and they feel like the process has been minimized to looking at a mass balance. You know, how much money did you sell, and it kind of loses that why, the why behind getting into the organic movement. And so that's the I think the biggest challenge. So the public trust, it starts with the farmers. When farmers don't even believe in necessarily the movement, it's very hard to convince the consumer to say that this is something that they want to champion.
Okay. So I want to pass that to the farmers at the table here.
I am a cannabis farmer.
Okay, so not to undermine your farmer perspective, although
Regenerative organic.
we're going to come to the R word in a little bit, but we're not there yet. I'm waiting to warm people up. That one really gets people going. Can you, what does that spark for you when you hear that? Do you feel that as a farmer in terms of your relationship with, you talked about what got you into organics initially, and it really felt like it was about, principles, what you believed in, and has certification and some of the process and the admin changed the way that you feel about it?
Yeah, for me, and I would say for a lot of the people, like I'm 45 now, so we've been farming for 20 years, 22 years, and I think a lot of the folks that in my group of age, it feels like it has become very corporate, especially in the US. And I think in Canada we're still lucky that it's not so corporatized, but like organic at Walmart, organic at scale, which seemed to have been, the project of a branch of the organic movement to scale out the organic. I just feel that a lot of smaller farmers feel that it just doesn't represent their values and the human aspect of farming, which is when we go to farmers market, we meet people, we do a CSA, we meet people. It's not just that we have the marketing and branding, it's we have a face on the product, and it's a local organic movement, and I think that is hard to compete against Walmart that has organic lettuce now, cheap. And so there's this kind of like feeling that, okay, where's this going? Like it doesn't represent what I do, and I see the competition now. We're not competing against conventional produce, we're competing against conventional organic. And that feels kind of like it's a lost battle. So I think the hope is not there on that front. And I feel that a lot of us, if I can talk like that, feels like organic was co-opted in many ways. So.
Allison, I'm going to let you weigh in.
Yeah, no, this is great for me actually, because I actually feel not the same as you guys. From my perspective out west, I don't get that corporate feeling as much, and I think it's just because we operate at scale, so to speak, in our everyday lives. And so, for me, I've actually made a movement on our farm to sell more locally. In my case, that means I'm selling within Canada. To get that face-to-face interaction. And for us, we're really seeing a lot of really positive feedback from our customers. I'm getting public phoning our farm and asking us questions, which we never would have had done 5 years ago. And I owe that actually to the pandemic, because I feel like once the pandemic hit and people started to think more about where the food was coming from and how it was produced and the nutrition within it, I feel at that point they really started to connect more with the farm. And so that's my perspective from out west, but I definitely acknowledge that, in different growing systems, if you're used to the everyday interaction with customers on a weekly basis, that's not something I'm familiar with, but I can definitely acknowledge that that's something that's changing with the influx of conventional organic is a scary word that I'm not prepared to use in my everyday vocabulary yet, but yes, I can see how that would be an issue.
And I thought regenerative was going to be the scary word tonight. I mean, there's a lot of interesting threads, I think, here. For me, there's been lots of talk through the kind of organic community's history. Is organic scalable? Does organic actually have a future to feed people in larger quantities? And I think it kind of ties into what you were saying, Jean-Martin, but like this tension between, is there such a thing as big organic? And that doesn't necessarily, for me, mean that the company is big, but like organic that can kind of go far. I think there's a thread in there that relates to imports versus domestically produced, which is another kind of, I think, interesting topic. And so maybe let's dive in there a little bit on this issue. For what I hear from consumers, it's I go to the grocery store and I'm standing there and I'm trying to make a decision, and I can buy a local carrot, or I can buy an organic carrot from California, and my values are torn a little bit because I want to support my local community, but I also believe in organic. And I guess maybe the question here is, you know, Jean-Martin, you've published a book, The Winter Market Gardener, you know, is there an opportunity, what do we need to be doing here in a province like Ontario, in the provinces where you come from, to create a stronger domestic organic supply in order to allow consumers to find that, you know, ultimate combination of local and organic that they feel really good about?
Yeah, that's totally true. If there's no supply, then it's going to be hard to create the demand. And you know, there's tidbits of alternatives out there that could be scaled or it's multiplied. It's not, in my opinion, it's not about scaling. It's about multiplying the initiatives. That's what I felt, and that's what I defend. But where the issue becomes very tricky is because now, let's say I'm growing salads. I'm not just competing against California, which I don't know if you've been to organic salads farms in California. It's quite something. But now it's hydroponic salads grown in warehouses, and so we're competing against that, and that really doesn't feel the same, in my opinion, with my salad. But it's the same label, and that's where there's a disconnect, in my opinion. But you're right. You know, we're always, you know, I'm always being told, a few acres, 10,000 farms, can that feed the world? But you know what? You know, I think we should be fed by people that grow food with care and that care, and not just being a corporate commodity. But that's just like, it's very personal as a point of view, but I feel there's a lot of growers that feel the same.
If I can add to that, I think, one thing, it's also important to recognize that local carrot might have been grown organically. And we lost that word. We lost the word CFI, usurped the word organic with the national standards. And I don't think we should have given it up. I think the fact that Montalban and Jean-Martin, know a lot of their customers. They have that face-to-face interaction. If they chose not to certify, they should still be able to call their product organic if they're following organic principles. And that's where I think the challenge might have to happen, where we go back to our Canadian standards, we go back to our certifying bodies and ask them to champion the fact that maybe we can be using the word organic if we are in fact doing direct marketing and at a small enough scale.
Okay. I want to give Allison a chance to comment on this, but then I want to come back to your idea of trust that you brought up initially, in this idea of certification or not. So Allison?
Okay, we covered a couple of things there. So. In terms of building up the organic sector, those of you who were here last year was my first time at this conference. I thoroughly enjoyed it. But Paul Holmbeck really touched me last year. His keynote speech was inspiring to me, and as president of COG, we've been working really closely with him actually last year, developing an organic action plan. Within that plan, we're trying to strengthen the organic sector and build it up, not just because of supply, which is a hugely important issue, absolutely, but also there has to be the pull as well. There has to be marketing opportunities for local growers to be able to market their organic products in a way that's easy for them and that meets the local demand. But then there has to be a way to scale up production as well. So I think when we're talking about building the organic sector, we have to look, in Paul's words, the push and pull on how that translates on a local scale. I think that's really important. And then we're going to talk about the organic standards. I'm interested in the comments that were just made about we not allowing people to call themselves organic if they're not certified organic, as long as they're following the principles, because I actually see that as being a way to devalue the word organic and to possibly introduce a more distrust to the word organic, because the very strength in calling, like for example, the products that I'm selling, I certify them, they're certified organic, my customers can go and I can say, well, I follow the standards, I'm third party, audited, everything is above board, I can prove that I'm doing the things that I'm doing, and that is the strength of the standards. And I think allowing, even though they have the best intentions and they're following organic principles, absolutely allowing them to call themselves organic without being certified, I don't necessarily agree with that. But I think what the solution is to facilitate their transition to organic and make it easy for them to certify. So if that means reducing the paperwork load, providing financial support, providing agronomic support. Right now, it's really difficult to find professional agronomists to provide advice. I mean, obviously you're an exception there, but provide professional advice to growers to continue to grow organically in a really healthy and viable way. And so I think doing all of those things would address the problem instead.
And I think we have at least one agronomist in the room here, but if there are any others, this might be a good time to just put your hand up, maybe like half up, and identify yourself, because there may be some folks that would be interested in the conversation. I was looking at Ruth, but I didn't see her hand go half up, but I saw a few others, so that's okay. And so I'll bring it back to you, and I do want you to have a chance to speak, Jean-Baptiste, but you brought up this idea of trust early on, so I'll let you comment and then we'll pass it on. And I think, I'm curious to hear your perspective given what Allison shared.
Sure. And I definitely think that we need to have a longer discussion around, what are some alternatives. I'm old enough to remember peer review certification. And to me, I think that was a great thing, and it's sad that we lost that peer review, because to me, there's that type of openness and transparency that you have amongst your peers. That's a big challenge, and farmers could not hide the fact that they didn't get a cover crop in because your neighbor knew you didn't get a cover crop in. So that was that type of transparency that I think is really important. And I still think that type of transparency, if you are direct marketing, your consumer, your clients if you're fully transparent, they have that ability to go and see, are they happy with your farming practices, and if you're open enough to allow them to come and observe your farming practices and stuff. So.
Jean-Martin, give you a chance to.
Yeah, well, I think that trust thing, I'm not old enough to remember the pioneers of organic farming, but I hang out with them sometimes, and they remind me that at one point they were promoting organic farming and they were opposed by conventional farming. And universities would not talk about organic farming. It was highly discredited, and they were laughed at. They weren't taken seriously. And for all of us, just to remember that in the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, it was all about replacing soil with NPK and getting the right formula and just getting that kind of approach. And I just don't get it that hydroponics now is certified by USDA. Like, how is that possible? And that just for me breaks the whole thing. And I know we're in Canada and it's different, and I think because of probably a lot of you people here, that hasn't happened in Canada, and perhaps it won't. But still, the U.S. and all the influence that it has, there's tens of thousands of organic farmers that are said, "Fuck it, we're not certified anymore because of that." And I think that's just where it breaks. The trust breaks because of exactly that. We're replacing soil with nutrients, however organic they can be. There's nothing that replaces soil, and the organic foundation is about soil, and it should stay about soil.
I think you have some soil advocates in the room. Well, probably a few. Okay, so maybe I'll put another question into there. What is, again, you can kind of complete the sentence, what is the thing you are most excited about that is happening in organics right now? Let's start with you, Allison.
Yeah.
Yay. This is great. The thing that I'm most excited about with organics is the next generation. I'm still very much in the farming. I'm not ready to retire anytime soon, but I'm looking at the next generation, and we do a lot of mentoring on our farm with the Young Agrarians Group. If you've never heard of it, look it up. They're amazing. But I get such energy and excitement from these youth, and none of them have farming background, and they're all interested in farming. They're not interested in just farming. They're interested in farming organically. They're interested in farming ecologically, whatever you want to call it. But they're interested in learning how to grow food in a way that also builds soil and helps mitigate climate. And I'm really excited. I think my hope is 20 years from now when I'm sitting on my rocker or whatever, I'm going to look out and I'm going to see a really different landscape with another youthful generation that's coming up and replacing all the farmers that were retiring. And I'm hoping we're going to be in a very different place.
You have the microphone, so you're up next.
Is it okay if I bring up the R word?
You can do it. I can't shield you from the buns that might get thrown at you, but I'll let you go.
There's two regenerative organic farmers on this panel here. Right? Are you still certified? Or are you certified? Yeah. Okay.
You're safe.
Yeah. Throw them at her. She's a real farmer. So to me, regenerative agriculture, and in particular regenerative organic, to me is exciting, especially even for the organic movement, right? Because it's challenged us. It's challenged us within the organic movement that we in fact have to look at a slightly different lens and perhaps incorporate some of those concepts that are brought up in the regenerative movement, right? I typically like to use the word regenerative organic. That's the movement that I really want to promote as a vice president for Regeneration Canada. The concepts around regenerative, beyond just climate change mitigation, that really attract to me is the fact that we are typically taking a decolonial lens to agriculture. And for me, as a person of color, and somebody who's been in this movement for close to 35 years or longer, or actually 40 years, I'm starting to see more diversity in the rooms. It's great to see gender diversities or genders diversity, but now we're starting to see more movement with many different races that are coming into the agricultural space, and for me that's been really exciting and positive, and one of the reasons why I do volunteer with Regeneration Canada.
What gets me really excited is, and I'm kind of biased because that's totally what I do, but I see that there's a lot of people now that are interested in small-scale farming. And I really think that small-scale farming is making a comeback. And I feel that the fact that it's really easy now to direct market, there's so many opportunities, there's so many channels with social media, with technologies now that allows you to open a store overnight, sell whatever you have directly, and facilitate all the ways that you can really sell and produce and just I think that's the future. I really believe that a lot of us will get involved in decentralizing the food system. And my best example to explain what I mean by that is that yes, there's a lot of small farms that are feeding communities, and we should definitely see more of them, and they should multiply. But the craft beer industry is a great example of how this happened. 20 years ago, there was 3-4 beers in Canada. That's it. And now you can't find a town that doesn't have at least a few breweries. And that has created employment. It has created a sense of terroir, of taste, of community, of local proudness in many ways, and job opportunities. And I just feel that we could see that more with local, bakeries, with whatever we consume. And so I think the scale issue with technology and with the fact that more young people, they want to get into farming, but they perhaps don't want to have, 5,000 acres. But perhaps 2 would work great for them. Or just have a small shop. I think that there's an opportunity for a lot of young people to get into farming and just create impact by their numbers. So that's what I'm excited about.
I like it. All right. Okay, I'm going to do one more question and then we'll open it to the audience. If a train leaves the station traveling 100 kilometers an hour, we won't make you do math. You both, I'm not going to ask you how old you are, but you've all made reference to being, in this business, in this community for some years. So I want you to imagine you're having a conversation with your younger self. You see you're just starting out. What's the one thing or the piece of advice or the thing you'd like to share with your younger self, having had the perspective you have now? And I think, we have also a mix of folks in the audience here, but we have some folks who are earlier on in their organic journey. What's that thing you would tell your younger self with the perspective that you have now?
I'll start if you guys want. I would totally tell them to enjoy the folks that you're with, because you never know when some of them might bail out or die or leave, but there's a lot of people, I was one, that I've been bumping into every year, and just this community is so rich in really beautiful relationships, and when I was younger, I don't think I appreciated it as much as I do now. So just enjoy the people that you're with, because we're all sharing something that's pretty powerful. That's what I would say.
I'll extend on the relationship part. I'm a graduate of the University of Guelph. I don't think I graduated with an appreciation and a respect for plants and what plants can teach me. And when I say plants, it does extend into the soil. I really don't differentiate between plants and soil. I think they're one. They are my best teachers. There's no question that I've learned so much more now that I appreciate them and communicate with them and am inspired by them and learn from them. So I think that's where I feel like if I had known that, I would have come with even a different, better sense of wonder and awe of really what plants can offer us. And with that usually comes the humility that I still would never know more than I'll always be wanting to know more. So I think that's it.
So far we have love the people, love the plants.
I'm going to differentiate myself from guys. I haven't been in the organic sector for that long. I've been only farming for about 10-12 years. Okay.
That's pretty good.
Fair enough. But I think what I always wish I had told myself back when we first started our farm is that I wish I had just told myself, don't be so afraid to be different. Because back when we first started farming, we were so concerned about doing things exactly how everybody else did them. Don't do anything weird that the neighbors are going to talk about. And I wish I had just knocked myself on the side of the head and just be like, Allison, it's okay. Try new things, do things a little bit differently. And now that we've been farming for as long as we have, and we've seen, especially in the last few years, really, really good success on our farm with building our soil and growing really great crops. Now that I'm seeing the end of the journey in that sense, I really feel like if I just stopped wasting all that time in the beginning worrying about what everybody else thought and just did what I knew in my gut to be the right way to do it, I would have just saved myself a lot of grief. So that's what I would say.
All right. So that love the people, love the plants, and love yourself. I feel like that's a pretty good. Put it on a bumper sticker. Can we print those?
Can I just add something here?
Yes.
Because I wish I would have listened more to the conventional people around me, because what they were telling me, because I wanted to be different from the get-go. And now I realize that there was a lot of good stuff, even if they weren't so different than I was. So it's kind of funny how you can go both ways.
Yeah.
There was wisdom in people that were farming more conventionally than I was when I was younger. I should listen perhaps to some of them.
I'm just gonna take a microphone around.
Yeah, here, do you want to take this one or?
Go ahead, let's switch up.
Okay. So if anyone's got a question, put your hand up. Carolyn will come around. I have lots more questions, so don't worry. I'm like, we could be here all night, but I also want to give you a chance
Especially
to...
if Norm gets the mic.
Oh, sorry, there's a rule. No Norm, no Norm.
Okay, you got a timer on.
30 seconds, Norm.
I stuck my head up and I could see Carolyn go, oh no! So, Jean-Martin, you said something that really made me think. So we started out as 2 acres of organics, and then we've grown to 20. So in greenhouses, about 45 employees. So I'm getting into that dangerous territory that you're talking about in terms of being a corporate farmer. And we couldn't have done what we've done now without doing that, because we've gained perhaps 10% in terms of margin on lack of overhead, and then maybe another 10% in terms of scale. And so that's 20%, and with the price pressure today, that's imperative. Without that, we would be out of business right now. So, but what you said was, don't scale, multiply. And I thought that was really cool, because what you're talking about maybe is when you scale, you lose the culture. And it boils down to how do we, from now on, I'll never say I'm scaling again, I'll say I'm multiplying. How do I multiply from 45 employees to 450 employees and maintain culture? Is that what you were talking about?
There's a multiplying joke in here, I know, but...
No, I think you know, scaling up is what I was hearing when I was starting. It's like, yes, I'm on an acre and a half, and you should go to 20. But we decided that, you know, we were making great money without scaling, and we were making 50% profit margins on an acre and a half, which was more than $80,000 a year. It was like, why would we go through the trouble of scaling if we're already making a decent livelihood, direct selling everything? And 20 years later, I still think that, you know, my wife runs the farm without me. She says it's better because I was spending more than she was. And that's part of the equation. But, you know, I just feel that there's also room to say that, you know, instead of having a few big farms, why don't we have a lot of smaller farms? And it's not to say that the 20-acre farm is good or bad. It's not bad at all. But just to give you context, let's say in Quebec, when we had the pandemic, there was a lot of talk at the high level of government to double the number of greenhouses to be self-sufficient with regards to winter vegetables in Quebec. And so they poured, you know, huge amount of money in that bill over 5 years, doubled the number of greenhouses. And the model was to develop, you know, 6, 7 big systems, big farms. And I was thinking, why not just give money to thousands of smaller farms and have the multiplication of these greenhouses all over the place? And for me, that's kind of what I'm talking about. Like, not as specific, perhaps, as what you pointed out, but just this general idea of having these farms that are throughout the board, resilient, and that even though they don't have 45 employees, they have perhaps 5. Well, if there's 10 of these farms, it's the same thing. It's just a different economic perspective. I don't know if it makes sense.
No, I think it makes sense, and I think we know that our yield per acre is definitely much higher with greater intensity, and so you may only need 6 or 7 farms to meet what one, 6 or 7 2-acre farms could probably out-yield one 20-acre farm, right? So, and I think maybe some of you have heard that most people who can only manage about 7 people at once. One manager per 7 people. So I think when we get much larger crews, we tend to fall into move away from doing agronomy and get into HR, and it's not why you signed up to be farmers. So I don't use the word multiplying. In fact, I think what Madeleine and JM have showed really and now Catherine, I think they've shown that, it's not about scalability, it's about showing the opportunity for repeatability. And so we should be repeating this example as many times as we can.
Do you have another question? Not Norm again, just to be clear.
Norm's on our board, so we pick on him, but we love him, right? Okay.
Hello, Ian Graham from Hampton. If our plan A is to grow organic through the existing channels and meet government policy priorities in whichever they happen to be, export, for example, major export drive, what would a plan B look like if that one was doomed to failure because the world has changed so much, economically, ecologically, and even, you could say, socially?
I'm trying to think of how to paraphrase your question. Are you guys clear on the question, or? Okay, I think we've got some thoughts on Plan B.
Well, my plan B would always be, where export should only come where we actually truly have a competitive advantage, right? And to me, competitive advantage for us could be grains, and I personally feel like instead of exporting raw material, we should be value adding here in Canada and then exporting a value added material. We have a competitive advantage in maple syrup, competitive advantage in blueberries. To me, that's where our export model should be, and everything else should be, focused on domestic replacement of imports. And to me, that Plan B can easily be done by a repeatability measure, and including, which I think a big part of that should be food hubs. Food hubs dictated by whatever the smaller communities need. If a food hub in a particular community wants value-added processing, then they should have a food hub that deals with that. If somebody wants a food hub that is going to help with distribution, then they should have a food hub that deals with distribution. So that would be my Plan B, and in fact, I wish that was our Plan A.
We have a clarification here.
Did I miss the point?
To say that Plan A is fossil fuel driven and our future cannot continue on that Plan A, what's our Plan B to grow enough food for Canadians?
I'll stick with my answer.
I mean, debate who's more qualified to answer. I lost. We've talked a few times about this, so but I think for my opinion on Plan A versus Plan B, I think we need to do the best we can with Plan A for now and get where we can get. And then for Plan B, it's a personal question in the sense that, like on my own farm, for example, so I farm in the southern part of Saskatchewan. We farm in an area called the Palliser Triangle. I don't know if any of you would have heard of it, but it's one of the driest parts of Canada. And we've been in severe to extreme drought for, this is our 7th growing season in a row. So I'm growing with under 3 inches of rain in a growing season. And it's really difficult, or impossible. And so my Plan B is to really buckle down, is to really figure out how I'm going to grow within my specific growing context. And for me, that means really focusing on my soil. For me, that means adding biology back in. For me, that's doing whatever I can to mitigate, the small water cycle in my specific region, and try to do what I can to grow within my specific climatic restrictions. So that's different for everybody in the room. But I think, when we're talking about Plan A versus Plan B, I really just see the plan. And I think that's all different parts of it together. Adam made a great point about localizing food sources. If I could summarize, in a sense, what you were saying there, I think localizing processing, keeping things within your, is there such thing as a food shed? Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. within your food shed, I think is what is going to carry us through this area of climatic extremes.
Yeah, and I totally agree to bring that to the climatic aspect of the question, because that's what we're facing against. It's like growing food at scale in a highly mechanized way works in a monoculture system if you have lots of water.
Yeah.
Or you have somewhat of steady control, a temperature and an outcome that you can kind of understand. But that's not what's going to happen in the next 20 years. It's going to go berserk. Like it's started to. So, I don't think that fuel is going to be the problem. I feel water is going to be the problem. And then, in my opinion, but I'm really biased because, I grow on a micro farm, so the nail is what I see and I'm a hammer on that. But I really feel that the small farms are very resilient in that way. It's much easier to manage a few acres than 50 acres. Let's say of salads. I'm not talking about greens, but of vegetables. It's possible to cover your fields when there's a late frost or an early frost. It's possible to have an irrigation supply for the whole field without wasting water, setting up drip irrigation throughout. Scale becomes, in my opinion, a limiting factor in a climate change agriculture. So coming back to localized food, smaller farms, more farms, human scale farms. I think we forget that, yes, mechanizing agriculture was perhaps something that was a big stride forward, but coffee is the #1 agricultural product consumed in the world, and it's picked by hand. So it's not totally retarded to think about human scale farming.
Boy, I have a lot of questions. I'm Jen Penning. So I want to pick on the word regenerative. Not pick on it. I want to talk about it. As a few of you might know, the Fanning family, we've been in organic for a little while, and we are some of those pioneers who built the standards and who kind of, have been here since the beginning. The word regenerative wasn't legislated as part of that or incorporated into the standards, but I would say that I believe we all think of regenerative as what we aspire to be achieving with our organic farming practice. So the biggest challenge I have, when I first heard about organic regenerative certification, I was excited. We explored actually becoming certified, but there are so many big corporate interests that have taken it over, and when you look at how it's being used, it is not regenerative. It is not, and it is betraying the foundation of everything we've worked for in organic. So that's what the problem is with the co-opting of that language. We believe that we are striving to be ever more regenerative. I do have a question. So, sorry. I would love to sit around and talk about these topics. So, how do we, in the organic world that exists, those of us who've been around a long time, how do we reclaim that language, reclaim that space that has been co-opted? Because I think that's something that is important. And I think that that is something that matters to the next generation of farmers and the next generation of my farmers sitting beside me.
Yeah, that was a great question. You didn't even need to have a question. I would have loved to keep listening to you. But in my sense, I'm going to go back to the point that I think the whole regenerative movement is a wake-up call to our organic standards that we need to start incorporating some different values including some of the e-phone values that aren't necessarily represented in our Canadian organic standards, putting in more emphasis around human welfare and farm labor. Those should be better reflected, besides just our foundational principles, but actually be reflected in our standards. And so the same thing when it comes to looking at quantifying some soil biology or soil health. I think those should be more reflected in our organic standards and stuff. So in my opinion, and that's why I would love to continue to use the word regenerative organic, because I'm not one of those people who are, like Allison mentioned, worried about genetic engineering and the fact that, yes, you could have regenerative farms that are using GMO crops, you could have regenerative farms that are using glyphosate. That's not the regenerative that I want to be associated with. So I want to, in many ways, co-opt the word organic and bring it in under an umbrella of regenerative organic. If in fact our standards are reflecting those aspects around animal and better, human welfare, reflecting perhaps aspects of decolonization, respecting the facts around things like soil health.
Does anyone else want to comment? Otherwise, I see Ben's hand feels like it's reaching for the sky.
I have a comment. Sorry.
No, of course.
No comment.
You're up here. He's down there. That's why you're up here.
Regenerative is a word. I actually don't fear the word regenerative at all, and I'll tell you why. It's because it doesn't mean anything, right? There's no definition for it, and nobody can define what regenerative means, and so that's a huge thing that's lacking, right? And if we talk about us versus the regenerative versus organic, that is a huge thing that side of the coin doesn't have, right? We don't have a definition. We also don't have a standardized process to tell people what it is, right? Like organics does. So I don't fear the word regenerative because I think it's gonna work its way out, just like sustainable did and resilient did. All of these words that mean nothing work its way out. That being said, we do have some work that we could be doing in our standards. I agree with you, to bring it a little bit more in line with the iPhone, or not iPhone principles, but the core principles of organic. And I will say, spoiler alert, for those of you who aren't on the standards review process, which is happening now, there is a social fairness working group, and we are going to be adding in an aspect to that to try to bring that part into the standards. And I think what excites me about the standards is the fact that it is a peer process, right? It is driven by the sector. So if we want to put things in the standards to make it more in line with our principles, we can do that. We have the ability to submit petitions, we have the ability to debate the issues, and we have the ability to put it in the standards. So that's my take on regenerative, conventional regenerative. Organic regenerative, in terms of the ROC's certification specifically, we chose to do it for our farm because we were doing a lot of things as part of much like your farm, I'm sure, Jen, as well, right? So it was an easy step in for us. And the thing that I like about ROC is that it's based on the organics first, right? So in terms of, you can use, some regenerative farmers say that they can use GE or glyphosate or whatever, call themselves regenerative. No-till in the prairies is a great example of being regenerative but not. They don't qualify for that. So they don't even reach the base level because they aren't organic, right? And when you look at the conventional regenerative certification processes, like Regenified and these other ones that are coming especially out of the States, they're all private owned. They're not owned by farmers like organic standards are. And so I think about all of that and I put all of that into the context, and it gives me an okayness about the word regenerative, because I really feel like it's not. And 5 years from now, it's not going to mean very much to very many people.
I'd like to defer on that opinion. And where I want to bring my perspective on this is that I feel that Hollywood is now, coming out with movies, and we can't neglect the impact that this has. Like, there's a lot of young people that have drank the Kool-Aid, and I think it's very different than when I was studying sustainability, 30 years ago. I think it's different because it's clearly designed to be able to sell products. That's how I see it. Like, I might be kind of like from a kind of doomsday perspective, but I see that this is a push for different companies to be able to brand and compete against organic with a very loosely defined word. It's very convenient that it's not defined because they can label it the way they want. And there's a lot of merit to regenerative practices. We all agree on that. But I just see that the buzz around it for now, like, I just feel that there's something too phony around it. Like, it's not the real deal. There's a lot of marketing around it, and that's scary for me.
So Kristen, there's a couple of extra questions. I have a question, and it's also 7:45. So
I have like 3 questions.
Okay, well, let's let you wrap it up. I think, we're almost at 8 o'clock, and hopefully you'll get a chance before we wrap it up. Friday, Saturday, tomorrow, we hope to see you all there, and some of our speakers will be there, so you can ask your questions then.
So I want to say thank you to our speakers. I'm not going to ask my 3 questions because I do want to allow people to have their evening, but I feel like tonight's discussion for me showed the richness that exists in our community. There are so many interesting conversations. There are so many issues that we need to work together on. As I heard kind of this, I'm going to call it a friendly debate around the word regenerative. For me, is it an and or an or, right? I think a lot of the conversation often centers around the or. We need to do this or that, where there's a sense of kind of being against or on different sides versus where are the opportunities for the ands, the collaboration, right? You talked a lot about like value add, and to me, I'm like, that's a great opportunity for you grow the blueberries and I'll do the jam, right? And I think this is a great forum, this conference. I hope perhaps as a takeaway, if you're here for all 3 days, whatever portion you're here for, that you can find an and moment where you learn something and you say, if I did that and this, and it inspires you to go forward. I think there's a lot of great threads here about how we can continue to work together. So I loved when you agreed, but I also loved when you guys disagreed and brought those different opinions forward, because I think we need to hear them, and that's really where the magic happens, when we can debate those ideas and find out, okay, well, where is our and to put that together. So thank you for bringing forward those ands, for hopefully sparking a few ideas amongst our participants, and thank you for everyone for sticking around. I know some of you have been here since pretty early this morning, so I hope that this is the start of a great conference for you, and I think you guys are around for maybe a few more minutes if anybody does want, if you had that burning question you didn't get to, you might be able to get it in directly. So thank you to our panelists, and thank you to you guys.